Well, the offseason spinning has begun, and the D in Big D stands for New Day as the Cowboys introduce Brian Schottenheimer as their new head coach. He brings 25 years of experience as an assistant. First-time head coach, 4-year deal, puts him in Dallas through 2028, which notably is when Dak Prescott's current contract runs through. Here's Jerry Jones with more on the hire.
I get my proverbial ass kicked over needing people in my comfort zone. Without this thing being about me in any way, if you don't think I can't operate out of my comfort zone, you're so wrong. It's unbelievable. This is as big a risk as you could take. As big a risk as you could take. No head coaching experience. Yes, to some, and it might be couched as a less than glamorous hire. What I would say to you is I got here taking shots and not shoddy shots. I got here taking shots.
Not shoddy. Not shoddy.
He couldn't wait to get that line off.
Yeah, he set that one up.
I'm going to say shots, then I'm going to hit him with the shoddy. They're going to be like,
ooh-wee. What just happened?
The guy's sitting right there.
Beside him.
This is a less than glamorous hire, Brian. Any thoughts?
It's a risk. Big risk. Biggest risk I've ever taken since I hit oil. Biggest risk. You don't think I take risk? Man. I'm just going to tell y'all this right now. I'm social media. I am a genius at it. I spent 8 minutes watching my phone, watching that press conference, and I could not turn away because it was the train wreck that everybody came. You can't turn your. When I saw the one-handed air quote by Steven when he talked about
that's coming
the drought, I was like, they have lost. They've lost all.
Let's just play it. Let's play it since you mentioned it, and then we'll just go all in on it.
It's unbelievable.
So this is what I meant when I said, wait till you're not going to believe what they wouldn't say. So Stephen Jones addressed how long it has been, which is 29 seasons, that the Cowboys haven't even been in the NFC Championship game, and this is how he said it.
You always have to evaluate, where it didn't go right last year. And obviously we're also evaluating where it didn't go right, in terms of, this drought that people say we're in terms of a championship game or a Super Bowl.
It only took 40 years in biblical times to find the promised land. 40. We went on the circle of the desert 40 years. We're at 30.
So here's
the drought.
Like, if I had these people's money, I would not care about anything anybody had to say about me and the way I operate my business. Like, I just wouldn't pay attention. But they're clearly paying some attention to it, right?
They are.
Because that's what this means, right? Like, people say drought. It's probably actually a lot worse than a drought.
Yes.
It's a famine, or it's an ice age, more like a drought. But what Jerry's talking about, like, I get my proverbial ass kicked. Like, he's saying, like, this is what people say about me to criticize me. My response is, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, if you really want it to be, this is my team, and I'm going to run it the way I want to, then sort of, say it with your chest, right? I mean, like, actually, like, believe in it and stand by it.
I think the success and financial security that he has is not the same as being celebrated. And I think that's what it comes down to, is he wants to convince us that he is the Jerry Jones that won 3 Super Bowls back in the day, and he's the Jerry Jones that can build this team. And they've been good. So while we do have fun with the way that he's been behaving recently, like, the teams haven't been awful. Like, there are some really terrible organizations in this sport and in other sports. The problem is the decisions that he makes they seem to make less and less sense as we go along. Because if you wanted to keep this staff, then keep the staff together and pay the coach that you have. Why would you try to keep this staff together with the offensive coordinator and then let the head coach walk away?
And they've also lost other staffers, right? The special teams coach left. So I think they were caught off guard. I think they thought they were going to get a deal done with Mike McCarthy. And at the end of the day, he didn't like the deal on the table and he left. So I think they were caught flat-footed. They hit this process a week in. They generally handle it a lot differently than other teams do anyway. Look, if you break it all the way down, like, Brian Schottenheimer's a first-time head coach. So is Ben Johnson. So is Aaron Glenn. So is Liam Cohen. We don't know. Brian Schottenheimer might be better than all three of those guys.
Yeah, right.
We don't know that. It just feels very odd and haphazard the way they're doing it.
Yeah. So who else was once a first-time head coach? Bill Belichick and Andy Reid, and everybody has to start somewhere. I feel bad for Brian Schottenheimer,
Absolutely.
a man who was quite literally born into this. He's Marty's son, and all the rest of that, and all of the questioning / vitriol is going to sound to him as though it's aimed at him, when I think really none of it is. There's no way of knowing whether he's going to be the greatest coach of all time, the worst coach of all time, or somewhere in between where most people are. What it is, however, unquestionably, is another example of Jerry doing what he has continued to do, which is put someone in that position who did not have other options, who does not in any way have the footing upon which to stand to say, no, we're going to do it a different way. He continues to be the person running the show. And that is, he tripled down on it with this move at a time later in his life where some of us thought, with the drought that they've been going through and how badly things went last year, that maybe this would be the time that he would step back with a little bit of self-analysis and say, you know what? Maybe I need to try something different.
Right.
Maybe over the course of 29 years, it has been demonstrated that this hasn't worked the way I wanted to. Let me try something a little different. I don't know what that would have been, but it wouldn't have been this. And that, I think, is what people are reacting to.
You're 100% correct. And I think what Neek said probably lends to this, right, is that you haven't been so bad. Yeah. You've been good enough, right, to compete. McCarthy, go 12-5 3 years in a row. You win a playoff game. You get beat by Green Bay the year before. Now your quarterback gets hurt and the season kind of falls. But the reality of it is what he did to get himself in that position for this season all could have been laid at the feet of Jerry Jones, because he didn't do the things he needed to do to get their roster right to go be successful. And I think if you're Schottenheimer, who I actually like, I think he's a great football coach. I wish him the best, right? Like all these guys. But at the end of the day, how do you define success? That's a really difficult question when you're in Dallas. And I think it's unique because you might go 12-5, but you don't win the playoffs, you still have a job. You're linked with Dak Prescott. All the major pieces and parts are already kind of there. It's how do you define success for the Dallas Cowboys in a league now where you probably have the third best quarterback, right? Like as you're looking at the league, the way it's stacking up, it becomes more and more difficult. I'm just not sure how you figure it out.
Jerry Jones is always hiring coaches who don't really have other options. It's true, but he just had a coach walk away who doesn't have other options, who doesn't want to be there. So that speaks to, and I know Mike McCarthy hasn't put words to this, but I assumed that he was going to get paid just as much as he was getting paid before to come back and coach there. And I'm in that ballpark. So for him to not want to come back, and it's not that he's leaving to go to another job, it speaks to, as much as I hear positive things said about working for Jerry Jones, and I think most of us do, people like working there. It does say something that this coach is like, nah, I'm going to go do no job rather than come back and do this job. And then they hire Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah, and just one final word of irony. I brought this up Sunday on Countdown. When Brian's father, Marty, whom we loved, worked here at ESPN.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, he worked at ESPN in between jobs, as most coaches do. And I hosted a show with him one time. Yeah. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, he was so thorough and just terrific. Everybody loved Marty Schottenheimer. But the one thing I'll never forget he said to me, and I've quoted it a million times, is, if you're the coach of a football team and your players are looking over your shoulder at anyone, you have no chance to succeed. That was Marty saying that. Now here's his son taking this job with the definition of the person looking over. There has never been anyone who looked over a coach's shoulder more than Jerry Jones does. So I find there's some irony in that, and I know Brian knows that, and he goes into this and he'll take his best shot at it, and anyone in his position would have taken the job.
Of course, absolutely. He wasn't getting other interviews. This is his shot at doing something he's always wanted to do, and he's never got a shot at. And maybe he'll be great at it.
Right.
I keep going back to last year, and obviously different circumstances because you've done it before. Washington Commanders fans were not happy with the Dan Quinn hire. They thought they were settling at the end of the process, and obviously it's worked out for them. So we honestly don't know these teams teams don't honestly know who's going to be a great coach and who's not. Jerry just decided, well, you know what? Rather than bringing somebody else's unproven coordinator, I'll just go with my own.
To me, it's not about the coach, man. It's about the pieces and parts.
Yeah.
Jerry's got to do his part to arm Schottenheimer to be successful. You have got to change. You have to get a good running game. You have to get defensive tackles. You have to build the roster so you can succeed. Howie Roseman is a great example. Build the roster. You guys all, you put the bash on Sirianni. So it's all everybody.
Coach of the year.
So Jerry, go be Howie. Go put all the talent you want in the group, and then let him go win or lose, and then you can talk about the coaching. But until you arm them and equip them to go win, you'll always look back at Jerry.
You know why that won't happen? Because that costs money.
Yeah. I'm with you.
He's got money.
And
don't spend it.
But he doesn't spend it on his football team. That is the best kept secret in the entire NFL is the Cowboys don't spend money the way other teams do. But let's do a little study on that.
Dak Prescott got an $80 million signing bonus.
Look up the actual cash outlay for every NFL team over the last, Darius, take it back the last 5 years, and you'll be surprised at what you might find. In the meantime, as we continue, we'll get to the Buffalo Bummer.
Hey, Blue and Silver Nation. Today, we have news that will shake every Cowboys fan's heart. But first, let's take a moment to reflect on this season. Once again, high expectations, a talented team, but the ending was bitter. The Super Bowl dream didn't come true. The defense, which started as one of the best in the league, eventually crumbled under pressure. The offense? Inconsistent. Mike McCarthy? Highly questioned. And now, we are heading into an offseason that promises to be turbulent. As if the collective failure wasn't enough, a situation has now emerged that could completely change the future of the franchise. A drastic decision might be on the way. Micah Parsons, the star of our defense, has a complicated contract renewal ahead. The linebacker is asking for a historic $150 million contract, a figure the Cowboys simply cannot afford. So what's the solution to this impasse? A blockbuster trade. Reports gaining momentum behind the scenes suggest that the Cowboys are preparing a trade with the Las Vegas Raiders to bring in Max Crosby and send Parsons to Vegas. That's right, fans. Our top defensive player might be on his way out. This trade makes sense for both sides. The Cowboys would secure one of the most consistent pass rushers in the NFL, maintaining pressure on the defensive line and possibly creating cap space to strengthen other areas of the team. On the other hand, the Raiders, who also had a disappointing season, would see Parsons as a key piece in their franchise rebuild. Max Crosby is only 26 years old and has already put up impressive numbers: 387 pressures, 62 sacks, and 217 tackles over 6 seasons. He would bring the same defensive intensity as Parsons, ensuring that the Cowboys remain strong on the line of scrimmage. Now, I want to hear from you, fans. Is this trade a good deal? Would you give up Parsons for Crosby? Or do you think the Cowboys should do everything they can to pay him and keep him on the team? Drop your opinion in the comments. And if you want to stay updated on everything happening behind the scenes with the Dallas Cowboys, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this news with your fellow fans. Let's discuss the future of our franchise together. See you next time.